Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
All right, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this March 5th, 2018 day on our calendar, a Monday. We're getting started today. And the winds of war are blowing all over the world. Washington, D.C., Moscow, Iran, China, North Korea. And this show is about, are you prepared in 90 days for World War III? And that question I ask because if you go to the internet now and you go to all these alternative sites, they're bracing up for a war in 90 days. Now, I may say this, that when I started this show in 2000 and I believe 4 or 5, the end of 2004, the alternative media was bracing for a war with China in 30 days. And every year, the alternative media braces for World War III, but it never seems to happen. Now it's 2018, you hear the same thing, but are those shouts in the wind more credible today than they have been in the last 15 years? Well, I think so. I think finally we're reaching a point of no return. And people will say, Greg, you're a doomsdayer. You're bringing doom and gloom. Why don't you forget about it and just go on your life, and when the nukes hit, say sayonara, Charlie. But anyway, I'm looking at this thing objectively and, hoping for the best, preparing for the worst, and looking at the alternative media and how they're talking today, but also how the mainstream media is talking, how Washington is talking, and how Russia is talking. And it seems to me that we're on the verge of World War III, and it reminds me of another, are we going to have a Cuban Missile Crisis again? But let's talk about recently what Vladimir Putin said last Thursday. Now, he's running for election. Now, isn't that a joke? Election in Russia, it's like election in America. They select their president there, and we select ours here. We just do it in a different way, and we buffalo the people in a different way. But there's no elections there, just like there are no elections here. Trump was appointed president, and who better than the Simpsons to tell you so, as he strolled down that elevator in a Simpsons cartoon commercial way back in 2000, I believe it was 1 or 2. But anyway, let's look at what Vladimir Putin said just recently on Thursday regarding what Russia is planning to do, or if he's just basically, putting these words out there to scare people and to scare everyone. Now, who knows? But let me tell you, with what's happening with North Korea and some of the testing going on with our allies, you have to wonder. So we're going to look at, are you prepared for World War III in 90 days? How can, that question is all over the internet. And how could you prepare for a war, World War III? What, am I going to build a bomb shelter now and live there for the rest of my life? Listen, if there's a World War III and these nukes start spreading all over the world, humanity's in big trouble. And if you're one of the lucky ones to survive, it's not going to be the same world. But anyway, let's look at what Putin said recently on Thursday. Okay, here's what he said. Here's Putin's words right now. Russian President, Vladimir Putin, on Thursday, used a concept video of an unlimited-range nuclear warhead apparently raining down on Florida, President Trump's home away from home at Mar-a-Lago, to tout Russia's new firepower. You know, Putin boasted about the Kremlin's resurgent military might during his annual address to his nation's parliament, hyping weaponry that he said would render NATO defenses completely useless. Here he goes again. And did he do it with his shirt off on his horse? We don't know. He drew repeated applause with animation-backed claims of nuclear-capable weapons that elude air defense systems and invincible missiles that travel at hypersonic speed. Quote, any use of nuclear weapons against Russia or its allies, said Putin, any kind of attack, will be regarded as a nuclear attack against Russia. And in response, we will take action instantaneously, no matter what the consequences are, Putin said. Nobody should have any doubt about that. Putin, who is up for re-election, March 18, used Thursday's speech to showcase his company's strides in military technology. Russia still has the greatest potential in the world, but nobody listened to us, he said. You better listen now. To drive home his point, Putin spoke as a video showed multiple nuclear warheads streaking through space before showering down on what appears to be the outline of the state of Florida. Quote, but even this is not the end, Putin said. We've developed new strategic weapons that don't use ballistic trajectory at all, which means that missile defense will be useless against it. CNN national security analyst Samantha Vinogad said Putin's braggadocio was meant to rile up Trump, whose presidency has been marred by investigations into Russian meddling. Quote, I do think Vladimir Putin was speaking to one audience, she said. It wasn't anyone in Russia, it was Donald Trump. Quote, he was trying to get the president distracted from anything that Trump may be doing to hold Russia accountable for the ongoing attack on the United States, she said. The president's inaction makes Putin think, why wouldn't I say all this? Why shouldn't I show that we can violate treaties and laws and talk about strategic attacks all around the world? Putin has no reason to feel this way. If you like this stuff, my goodness, it's more theater, but now we got the theater moving away from America, but the world scope now. Look, Trump and Putin are on the same team, folks. He isn't riling up Trump. He is basically either setting an outline for what is going to be a nuclear attack, or he's not. And he's just playing games with the Russian people, the American people, and the people of the world. Now, earlier I said, what about the Cuban Missile attack? What about another Cuban Missile crisis? Like happened years ago, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Now, do many of you remember it? On October 16th through 28th in 1962, a 13-day confrontation between the U.S. Soviet Union concerning American ballistic missiles deployment in Italy and Turkey, with consequent Soviet ballistic missiles in Cuba. What about the Cuban Missile Crisis in 2018? Right now, the U.S. is training European military to use nuclear force against Russia. Putin unveils secret nuclear weapon systems to hit the United States now. And what does this lady say?
These new weapons may, in fact, really be able to evade Western missile defense systems. Putin also said, Sandra, that these weapons that he has just obtained do not exist anywhere else in the world. That has yet to be confirmed. But one highly respected Russian military analyst I spoke to earlier said that these weapons are for real and that the nuclear arms race is back on full scale. Now, Putin rolled out several videos this morning with computer animation to show these missiles, which he said were as fast as, quote, meteorites making their way to the Americas and around the world. Among the items, he described a nuclear-powered cruise missile and a nuclear-powered underwater drone. The weapons haven't all been named yet. He even suggested the Russian public write in their suggestions to the Ministry of Defense. Putin said these weapons were developed after the U.S. withdrew from the anti-ballistic missile treaty when Russia was on its knees. So it had to figure out a way to defend itself. That Moscow's protestations about ditching the treaty were ignored by the U.S. The quote of the day, probably from Putin, was perhaps, quote, nobody listened to us, so listen to us now. He also said, after all the applause from the audience died down, I hope this will, quote, sober up any potential aggressor. Now, finally, Sandra, the former head of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Senate, said that actually this just proves that Russia is absolutely not weak, but he also said he believes the Western media will have a, quote, hysterical reaction to today's announcements, but it also opens up dialogue with the West for further discussion about mutual missile defense.
Putin was speaking at an annual address to the Russian parliament on Thursday, outlining his policies ahead of the March 18th election. Among the weapons he boasted was an underwater drone armed with a nuclear warhead, powerful enough to sweep away coastal vicinities and aircraft carriers. Another was what he called an invincible nuclear-capable cruise missile with unlimited range that is capable of eluding air defense systems. Although Putin noted that Moscow has no intent of aggression, he did say that a nuclear attack on any of his country's allies would be regarded as an attack on Russia itself.
Any use of nuclear weapons against Russia or our allies, however powerful they are, we will treat as a nuclear attack on our country. The response will be immediate and with all the consequences.
It was unclear if he had a particular Russian ally such as Syria in mind, but his comments looked like a warning to the US. But Washington officials have cast doubt on whether Moscow has added any new capabilities to its nuclear arsenal beyond those already known to the US military and intelligence agencies.
We're not surprised by the statements, and the American people should rest assured that we are fully prepared.
She went on to say that US missile defense systems in Europe are not aimed at Moscow, but designed instead to defend against other threats such as North Korea and Iran. Putin has shrugged off those arguments and said in his speech that Washington should revise its Russia policy and engage in dialogue. Putin has used militaristic rhetoric to shore up support before, which has worked, and it looks like he's using the same tactic 17 days ahead of an election he is expected to win.
Okay, there you go. Are we 90 days away from war? That was a few comments from Putin in Russia. Okay, the journalist you heard there talking about Putin was from Fox News. You know, all know who Fox News is. Now I'm going to turn to the alternative news. Okay, now there's a group out there called True News. That's TRU News. And it's an alternative station, but if you look at the intro, it looks like, you know, another corporate CNN, right? Or Fox. And, you know, how far have we gone on the internet? I remember when I first started out, there were few people on there. There wasn't YouTube at all, hardly. And they were still doing the old-time radio broadcast. There weren't none of these slick, sophisticated alternative stations. And I remember Alex Jones back then. I had a radio show right after his. Was just gearing up, or should I call him Bill Hicks, gearing up his InfoWars, funded by the Vatican-led New World Order. And I was cruising through the internet today, and I saw Jerome Corsi, the Washington correspondent for Info News. Give me a break. How much truth are you really getting from True News here? Sometimes I gotta laugh. And he starts out by saying, I'm not an alarmist, but I'm going to show you credible evidence that in 60 days there's going to be World War III. Okay? I think just for the fun of it, let's listen to a few minutes of, in quotes, True News.
I'm Rick Wiles. Are you prepared for nuclear war by spring? I'm not trying to be an alarmist. I'm reporting to you what influential people are publicly saying.
Okay, I'm going to answer this question. Are you, Greg? He's asking me, prepared for World War III? Oh, hell yes, I am. I am so prepared for it. I've got my slingshot ready. I've got, enough food to last me for a day and a half. And let me tell you this. I hope the electric doesn't go out because I have to do my wash on Wednesdays. So this World War III, I'm prepared, but you better not get in my way of doing my laundry on Wednesday. As well as, I've got to walk my dogs every day, and I've got a whole bunch of other little things I like to do. So if I'm prepared, got my slingshot, ready to go, Jerome. Tell us when it's going to happen.
Is anybody listening? Is anybody taking it seriously?
Jerome, I am taking it seriously. I told you I have my slingshot ready. What more do you want?
Doc Burkhart, Edward Zoll, and I will give you shocking information on today's edition of True News. We may be less than 60 days from nuclear war. In part 2, we will discuss how the political left in America is whipping up support for a violent Marxist revolution in America. If you are watching us on broadcast, cable, or satellite television, we invite you to watch the second half of True News on our website, truenews.com. Let's start with North Korea. U.S. Senator Jim Risch, a conservative Republican from Idaho, is warning of a war of biblical proportions between the USA and North Korea.
Okay, now that's supposed to scare you because, you know, he's a Republican, a conservative, and he's saying of biblical proportions. Now the real problem, Jerome, is that you don't understand the Hegelian dialectic. It doesn't matter if he's a Republican or Democrat. He's on the New World Order Vatican team, my friend. And they work together. Let's move on. I'm not going to make too much fun of this, but I will chime in every now and then when the spirit hits me.
He said the death toll and destruction will be beyond anybody's comprehension. Senator Risch gave an audience in Germany a very blunt assessment of the growing likelihood of nuclear war. He was a foreign policy panelist at the Munich Security Conference on February 18. Here is a video clip of the Idaho senator's stark warning.
If this thing starts, it's going to be probably one of the worst catastrophic events in the history of our civilization, but it is going to be very, very brief. The end of it is going to see mass casualties, the likes of which the planet has never seen.
Now, I got to chime in here. How does he know that it's going to take a short time? Has he been briefed on what's going to happen? How does he know how long a war is going to take and how many casualties there are going to be? And this Jim Risch, I lived in Idaho for a while. Jim, are you going to be one of the casualties, or are you going to be down in one of those elite bunkers watching all of your constituents die? And why are you doing this in Germany?
It will be a biblical proportions.
Yeah, he spoke this at the Munich Security Conference just a few days ago, right?
The same one where Prime Minister Netanyahu waved the piece of the Iranian drone in front of the Iranian, was it the foreign minister?
Yes.
And basically said, you want a piece of this? You know, we'll give it back to you. This is the first time I've heard about Senator Risch's comments. This is not being reported widely in the American news media. But we have a U.S. Senator. This is a conservative Republican from Idaho.
Right.
And he used the term biblical proportion. I mean, we're not, you know, this isn't an end-time preacher, you know, whipping up some passion about the last days. This is a U.S. Senator who is telling an audience in Munich, Germany, this war is going to be of biblical proportion.
And this is the man who's likely to take over the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee after Bob Corker, the senator from Tennessee, retires in this coming year.
That's right.
So think of us, the man who is privy to secret briefings from the Pentagon, the man who's privy to reports from the CIA and the DIA, has come to this conclusion that if war were to break out, as he said, biblical proportions.
Well, he was, I found this out through the grapevine, that he was in secret meetings, but they didn't take place in the White House, and he didn't take place with the normal people you'd expect. But he was in this tunnel between the White House and Georgetown University. He was summoned there by a black-robed priest who shall go unnamed at this time. But he was summoned there and given this speech to say, Bob, what is his name, Jim? Here's your speech. go to our friend Hitler's country, who we put in business, and give this speech, because we are going to start a war very soon. And Mr. Risch, who says he's a Protestant, bowed down, kissed the feet of the Jesuit priest, and scurried away like a little ant. That's what I found out. That was the secret meeting. So let's continue with these gentlemen at True News.
Rick, why is he ringing these alarm bells? What does this mean for us right now?
Well,
I mean,
we're trying to tell the public, not only here in America, obviously our neighbors in Canada and Mexico, we're trying to tell the body of Christ worldwide. It doesn't matter what nation you live in. If you're the body of Christ, we're all family. We're trying to tell the body of Christ we're on the edge of nuclear war.
yes.
We have a U.S. Senator saying it's coming very soon. The death toll, the destruction is going to be beyond our comprehension. I want to go back and read. He said, if this thing starts, it's going to be probably one of the worst catastrophic events in the history of our civilization.
Wow.
How big is that?
And it's going to be very, very brief, he also said.
Yes,
It's going to be short.
it's going to happen. It's going to be over. There's going to be mass destruction in a short period of time. He said the end of it is going to see mass casualties, the likes of which the planet has never seen.
Okay, now, folks, I'm not making fun of these gentlemen. I don't even know who they are. I'm just commenting about, they can be on the brink of nuclear war anytime they want. We don't know. But, I'd rather look at it from a perspective of how they control us to this point. And everyone is missing the boat on this. Whether nuclear war is 60 days or 1 year or tomorrow, you're not going to be prepared for it. How can you be prepared? Were the Jews prepared, the ones who even knew about it, prepared for what the Vatican-led New World Order had in store? And when they set their sights on a country and a goal, as this goal has been pushed now for hundreds of years, do you think they care how many people they kill? And when Rick Wiles here, I don't know him, he may be a very good man for all I know, but maybe he's just a bit misinformed about this. And there are so many people misinformed about the Vatican-led New World Order because the perspective he's talking about is that he's putting credibility in the voice of a senator from Idaho who's conservative and in the maybe the head of the Foreign Relations Committee. There's no difference who the heck they are. Rick Wiles? They're all on the same team, and that's how this thing needs to be approached. And the only way you're going to be prepared is if you prepare yourself internally. And that means, you're not going to be able to know where that nuke hits, if it hits, and how many people are going to be killed. I mean, it's incredible. And this senator who works for the New World Order was briefed most likely by a Jesuit. Had the audacity to say it's going to be short, as if they know. How does he know it's going to be short, I would have asked. Who told you that? Why? Oh, because I'm privy to the type of weapons that our enemies have. Those are not your enemies, Senator. Those are your friends working together to kill each other, kill us. Okay? Your friends on the other side, just like Hitler had his buddies in the West, are working to destroy so they can create the New World Order. Back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This isn't happening.
Okay, we're back for the second half hour. 90 days you have, folks, according to a lot of these alternative sites. And I was listening to True News and watching their intro. Go to their website, watch their intro. It's kind of like watching CNN or Fox or anything. And I thought the alternative media was supposed to be different. You know, like Alex Jones now has Jerome Corsi as his Washington correspondent in Washington. Hey, Alex, I'll be your Washington correspondent in Podunk, Kansas. How's that? Oh, boy. And to tell you why I think a lot of these sites are controlled by the Vatican-led New World Order is I thought the alternative media was supposed to be different. But why are they emulating the mainstream news, introing just like them? Is it because if you look like you're good, you're good? It's the same garbage you get from the alternative or from the mainstream media, right? I'd rather see a guy get on, with a Cubs baseball hat on, sit by in his couch and give you some good stuff, give you some true news, not, watching a duplicate of CNN, but on the internet. That's what the alternative media, you know. I found over the years that some of the best information I got was just from a guy who said, I want to tell you guys something I found out. He didn't go through the whole green screen and creating this whole image that he's a real live CNN or New York Times reporter. And some of the best news comes from just average Joe people, you know, the average Joe out there. That's what I found out over the years. And before we move on to a couple different subjects today, I want to finish this 90 Days to World War III theme that I've been talking about this Monday. You know, let me give you some. They asked me if I'm prepared. Well, I'm going to, you know, if you listen to my show over the years, I've always given you hope. There is always hope on the other side of the story, right? There's, you know, not always doom and gloom. And I'm going to tell you why you don't have to worry. And people will say, Greg, I just got hit by a nuclear weapon and you told me not to worry. Well, if you did, you're not going to be emailing me anyway. But it is true, if you look into history, that most wars start in March. And I would ask a historian, why would that be, Mr. Historian? And they'd probably say something like, well, most of the generals don't like to get their boots dirty when it, you know, I mean, what are you talking about? Or they don't like to fight in the snow. You know, they like nice weather. So they started in March, and then they ended before the winter. You know. Well, let me give you my theory on this. If we get through March without a war, then folks, you don't have anything to worry about. Why is that? What starts up in April? Major League Baseball season. And didn't I tell you, once that first pitch is thrown, there isn't going to be any war. Once that first pitch is thrown, let me tell you something, you're free all the way up till after the World Series. It's true, that's my thinking. They never will start a war during the Major League Baseball season. There's too much money involved, and anyway, they like baseball, I hear. The Jesuits like baseball. Yeah. Okay. So if you get through March, you're free. That's my thinking and my advice to you. Now, what are we going to talk about? Well, this is kind of interesting because we always look for hope here, and I'm always curious about where these people come from that talk about aliens and all of this stuff. And they always relate it to what the old Hopi Indians say, and some of these Hopi elders are quite bright. But you get these American people, they come in and they talk about their encounters. And I think that if we keep, you know, listening to stories like this, which I'm going to play for you in a moment to just, you know, have some fun sometimes before the nukes start hitting. Maybe if, you know, we don't have to worry about it and be so serious. I'm going to tell you a little dark secret. I spent the last couple evenings trying to relax for a couple hours, and I got hooked on a little thing called Stranger Things. It's a Netflix series, and you got to watch it. It's it's incredibly entertaining. But the theme, you know, I know most people that are, you know, very tight to the collar are going to say this is terrible for our children to have these kids portrayed, and they're what they're doing is these kids are going back from reality to the world. There's a portal to get into another dimension, and there's monsters there, and these 4 kids are really the stars of the show, and you very seldom see the parents involved here, which is kind of like what an American family is anyway, right? And they've become quite the heroes in America. It's quite a show. And I'm on about episode 10, and I'm watching it just for entertainment's sake. And it made me think about, you know, the criticism that's going to come from people that listen to my show and others who we've talked about these terrible shows for kids, right? And I'm thinking, what kind of criticism is going to be leveled here? And it's going to be, well, you're teaching them that there's another dimension and there's monsters and there's a reality and a non-reality, and it's just terrible. Okay. Well, parents out there, most of you live in 2 dimensions. You know, the world you step out into every day is not real. And what I mean by that, it's a fictional story created for you. And so you're actually living in it. And then when you start really thinking, you come out of it, right? So you're going in and out of reality and fiction all the time, just like these kids are going in and out of this interdimensional reality where monsters exist. And watch the show. You'll enjoy it. And you decide whether your children should watch it. Okay, enough of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to, look at another way to show you that, maybe this call for war in 90 days isn't really what's going to happen. And maybe, if we start thinking in terms of, wow, look at all these crazy people out there with all these different theories. So we got all these people talking about wars in so many different ways. I don't think it's going to happen. I know it won't happen once baseball season starts. So let's see what the Hopi elders said, but they say there's a blue star prophecy. Learn where the safe land is in 2018. So here we go again, folks. I'm helping you out here, trying to show you that if the nukes start coming, there is a safe place to go. Now the question is, I don't know where it is yet, because I just listened to the beginning of this, and you got to wade through this woman who's going to talk about her encounters with aliens. And I got to read the intro to this, because it's interesting. I always get, every year I do at least, well, not really. I used to do 1 alien show a year. And boy, I did that so I'd get criticized by people who said, who are you going to believe that guy about the Jesuits, because he just had on Charles Hall, who talked about the tall whites. Well, excuse me. I enjoy being entertained just as much as the next guy. It has nothing to do with my credible stories about the Jesuits. But this intro is interesting, because it says, is the Hopi Blue Star Kachina prophecy happening now? Along with, and I'm adding, does this have anything to do with Putin and Trump? Oh, Greg, stop thinking. You're going to get in trouble. The truth that aliens exist is only the beginning here, folks. Learn how they are connected to our world. And sometimes I've talked many times. I'd never believed in aliens until I actually see one, and I saw one the other day. My goodness. Whatever I saw out there with 2 legs, and I'm not even going to mention it, didn't look human, but you never know these days. Tattoos, rings coming out of the nose, ears with stuff in it I've never seen before, hair that was pointed up to the stars like a pyramid. So I met an alien the other day. So anyway, why don't you just indulge yourself, and if you don't believe in aliens, think about, well, let's pretend they exist for 20 minutes. Do you mind? Learn how they've connected to our world, says this video, to humanity, and why they are contacting the people of Earth today. All right, who the hell have they contacted? That's what I want to know. They haven't contacted me, and you think they would. After all I've done to promote them once a year, I used to do an alien show, and you think they'd contact me? Friendly folk, I bet. Well, they share warnings about a possible future in which our existence as a species is at risk. Oh, hell. We've been here long enough, haven't we? But anyway, listen to this blue star prophecy to learn where the safe lands will be in the end times, and why the aliens' messages are important to all of us now. An ancient Hopi Indian prophecy states, quote, when the blue star Kachina makes its appearance in the heavens, the 5th world will emerge. This will be the day of purification. The Hopi name for the star Sirius is Blue Star Kachina. Now, I think Sirius has some kind of radio show too, don't it? It's Star, Sirius Radio. It will come when Sasquatch, Blue Star Kachina, dances in the plaza. I want to be there for that one. What plaza? Tell me. Which one? What city? What mall? Topics on this channel that we're going to play include the near-death experience, Planet X, Nibiru, climate change, cosmology, quantum physics, remote viewing, hauntings, contact with extraterrestrials, psychic readings, metaphysics, science, and religion. Conspiracy theories, Area 51, crop circles, cryptozoology, what the hell's that? Bigfoot, the hollow earth hypothesis, science fiction, literature, among others. Wow, that's a mouthful. And this video is going to start out with somebody who supposedly had an encounter like me the other day. I've seen that thing out there with hair going up like a pyramid, colored yellow or something. But anyway, I got to do an advertisement. Many of you know that I'm promoting a company called CTFO, and it sells hemp products. So if the nuclear war doesn't get us, buy some of these hemp products, because if you have any ailing, if you're ailing, whether you have certain aches and pains, or whether you're suffering from cancer, whether you have other things going on, people with Alzheimer's, other things, everything, give it a shot. Hemp for health and wealth. And I'm promoting a company called CTFO, Changing the Future with an O on it. Go to my website. Go to greganthonysjournal.wordpress.com. You'll see a website there, CBD Healthy Living Products.myctfocbd.com, and you can look at all the products. Now, if you want to make an additional $1,000 per week, maybe even more, why don't you get involved as an associate sales representative and let people of the world know this incredible products now, medical marijuana, cannabis, hemp, legal in 48 of the 50. Hemp is legal in all the states. 40 countries around the world. Mexico, China now has medical marijuana, and hemp is really one of the hottest products. And if you don't tell somebody about it, somebody else will. And if you want to sign up under me as a representative, go to that website and do it right now. And I promise you, if you follow the instructions that I've been given here, you'll make a good residual income, and you can start earning $1,000 even more per week. There's a lot of people that just started earning $200, $400, $600, and it's hot. Now, there's a few videos on there you can watch, and I recommend go to my website. There's two. One's there to look at the products. The other, you can sign up under me, and I'll tell you a little secret how you get people to be involved. You got to contact people. How many times, we're a internet world now, and I swear for every 10 people you send these hemp videos, 6 will actually watch them, 4 will enroll because they get excited, and 2 may purchase the product. 2 will purchase the product, so 2 out of 10 isn't bad. Give it a shot. You got to do more than 10 a day, but isn't it better working for yourself? You can do it with CTFO here on the Investigative Journal, always giving something to our listeners to help you out, right? And so we're going to help you out today by going back and kind of getting away from that really, what a theme I had, 90 days till nuclear war. I got about 9 minutes here, so I better kind of let's just forget about it all and dig into this Hopi prophecy. I don't know if we'll get to it because we've got to wade through this woman's crazy encounter. Do these things happen?
Well, yeah, so I thought maybe a good place, I'm still trying to adjust this. Here we go. A good place to start maybe is a little bit of background. How did you get involved with Blue Star Prophecy and ET contact? And I mean, this goes way back, right?
It goes way, way, way back for me.
First of all, I'd like to say hello to all the listeners out there from all over the world. I think it's fantastic that so many people are starting to really look into this subject and question a lot of it, and try and figure it out. And I would like to preface by saying that even for me, it's about figuring it out. It's about taking each day as it comes and looking at these phenomenal things that happen in my life and the pieces together. But yeah, history goes back to 1988. I was 22 years old at the time, and I had a very profound encounter. And this happened really late at night when I was driving in a car with 3 other adults and a child. And we were in Canada and really far in the north, in northern British Columbia. And we thought that a vehicle, some kind of a truck or something, had been following us for a really long time because we kept seeing these big lights behind us come up behind the car. And this went on for several hours. And then even when we switched drivers, it still went on for another couple of hours until finally the conclusion of all of this was that, I was in the passenger seat of this car and someone else was driving, and we went through a town. We just put the gas pedal down and drove straight through this little town because it was literally a straight line from one end to the other. And
I have a major question here. Were there any stop signs or stoplights in that town? And why would they go so fast?
We went through red lights. We just plowed through because we wanted to get away from this vehicle. And then when we got to the other side and I looked behind me, I said, okay, there's no way that they can catch up to us now. And literally in that moment when I blinked, the lights popped up behind us. And
oh boy, it's not, is this how the extraterrestrials get here? They now are in trucks? Is this a truck following her? This is how they're traveling in Peterbilts? Okay.
And at that point, I literally, we were freaking out. As you can well imagine.
Oh, yeah.
You don't get calm when something like that starts to take place. No, you don't. It was really, 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 it was really frightening. And we didn't know what was going on. But the weird thing was that she wasn't going to pull over the car, the woman driving, and she was terrified, rightfully so. And then she said, who knows what they want from us? Maybe they're going to try and kill us. We don't know. And I screamed at her and said, pull over the car. And she wouldn't. And I said, pull over the bleep, bleep, bleep car right now. It's not you they want. It's me. And that was really weird to say that, because that was when it was, I say that it was that exact moment that nothing in my life would ever be the same again, Michael. Absolutely nothing. Because the next thing we knew, she's pulling over the car. She looks like she's in some kind of a hypnotic state.
Something came through my head here. These stories always start out with, she's had a phenomenal life, these phenomenal things happen to her, and she has been chosen out of billions of people to be the guinea pig of the extraterrestrials. Why doesn't nothing happen to me like that? My life is so mundane. I haven't lived a phenomenal life. I just lived a daily life like an average Joe. I get up, I brush my teeth, I go through the day, and I sometimes walk around and go, abduct me, please. I'm bored here. Come on. I guess I'm just not lucky. Right?
Dazed, and she starts to pull over the car, and when she pulled over the car, I was the only one that was left conscious, and I heard a voice in my head say, step out of the car, we will not harm you, do not be afraid, step out of the car. And
yeah, right. Do not be afraid, step out of the car, and Open your purse and give me all your money. That's what I would think as a robber, right?
In front of the car was like a white mist, and from that mist I could see the sort of shimmer of some kind of a craft, a smaller UFO on the road. And then behind me were these two big balls of light just hovering. And I got out of the car, and the beings, these short little beings, and some people will say, oh, they were grays, but let's be careful, because I'm a stickler for wanting to bring about clarity, use words like to define anything that we talk about in ufology, and especially the beings, because the grays imply one thing in people's minds, and I think that these beings looked like this. They had bulbous type heads, black eyes, but the black eyes were more round. They weren't gray and off to the side.
Yes, and I think it's very important that we do not become bigoted and start just lumping all these extraterrestrials like a mad. Some have bigger heads, bulbous heads. Some have black eyes, brown eyes. Don't you get upset? When you lumped into, when somebody's bigoted against you, if you're black or you're yellow or you're white. And I think they deserve the same respect. And that's what she's telling us. Now, my last thought on this is there's either two possibilities. Everything I've said that aliens don't exist, I'm nuts and I'm wrong. Or this woman is just an incurable fiction writer and can't write, so she's got to get on radio and talk her story. That's my thinking. It's either one or the other. What do you think? But anyway, it leads up to the Hopi Star prophecy, and maybe someday we'll get to that. Now, all you aliens out there, come on and abduct me, will you? I'm helping you out here. Okay, we'll be back tomorrow on what? The Investigative Journal, here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.